Hi, everyone. Um, I want to start this conversation today with a preface to what I'm going to talk about. Every time I make a video on Prince Harry and Princess Meghan, I receive quite a bit of negative comments. And I want to let you know that it will be deleted. So, if you are making a decision to post a negative comment, I want you to realize that this is not a safe space for negativity. Okay. So I wanted to give a book review alert on Spare. It did take me a while to get to the book. Um, Not necessarily for any real reason, but yeah, I struggled with trying to get motivated to read it. I also then struggled with um, finishing it. And um, and but I will say that I just finished the book and I had an avalanche, more like a roller coaster of different emotions. And at the end, I was really sad. And I want to start by, I have some notes on this, but I'm going to first start off with um, making a comment to the American press about Harry and Meghan. And really, it's kind of fascinating because more of the press in covering this book really did, more of the commentary was really much more on Prince Harry, which is, I think, is a positive. But a lot of the discussion and the pictures were on Princess Meghan and his wife. And I struggle with that because I think I think I'm used to journalists who read the book. So I grew up on the Barbara Walters, on the Oprah Winfrey's, who, when they did an interview or even when they discussed something, they read the book. Now, anyone with a YouTube channel, who has access to YouTube, anyone can get on all of these. Like you could, they get on different channels or they get on the radio or they get on television because clearly this is all an easy thing to do. And they give commentary on how they think and feel about a topic without ever reading the book that they're talking about. They are interested in the most salacious statement and they talk about it as if without understanding context. I feel this very same vigor about Will Smith when about people pulling out these comments about Will. When Will Smith's book came out, the name of his book is Will. And it was, and if, and then they do these commentaries, they post these clips, and they put it on the internet, and everyone has a freaking field day off of what the clip said, all out of context, all just ill informed. And it gets me, and it makes me so highly annoyed. And I do listen to these individuals. They won't watch the movie, but they'll commentate on the movie and say maybe how bad it is. Like I'm sitting here reading people's comments on Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania. They haven't even watched the movie yet, and you're already rating it as a bad movie. Um, People talking about how bad 80 for Brady was, never even watched the movie. They just don't like Tom Brady. It is honestly so incredibly annoying because, or people who, like, there was a comment on Beyonce saying that she doesn't write love songs anymore. And it's like, but you don't even, from what I hear, she doesn't write love songs. And it's like, honestly, it doesn't take you that long to listen to an album or to Google and read the lyrics for you to know that that's woefully incorrect. Talking about she only does Black Power music. And it's like, I think having opinion and commentary is great, but it is infuriating. And I feel that, especially for people who call themselves journalists, to not read the books that they're talking about, watch the films, watch the show, listen to the album, you know, before they make comments. And I'm sorry that I'm putting all that here because I think that this is necessary to talk about because after reading this book, almost everything that people have said about the book is so woefully incorrect. So let's get into it. I'm going to, the book is kind of long. It's not terribly long. If you do the Audible book, I'm going to say that because he has a very thick British accent, that can be kind of difficult to sometimes follow along. So you have to really kind of concentrate. I do love um, some of the verbiage, and I love the fact that it is clearly in his own words because uh, of the lingo, which is not American at all. So you really don't get um, a clear view that this is an edited voice. And I think that that's an important aspect. So I'm going to say, let's first, when I first started listening to this book, I struggled with the level of opulence that took place in regards to the beginning, like the way that he lived his life, how he was raised is just in pure level of opulence. It's to the point, it reminds you of some of these movies and how like the Mary Poppins kind of idea. I can't wrap my head around the fact that on every night, somebody I mean, these are up to middle school. Somebody every single night is giving them a bath. Like you're in middle school and you aren't washing yourself or doing your own or washing your own hair. It's like I can understand the washing the hair part, kind of, but I cannot wrap my head around that you have someone bathing you and you're still in middle school. So I'm not going to tell my son that because he absolutely would expect that of me. Like that, that's so I think that the way that Harry starts his book, I mean, and I think that by the time, if you can stick with it, because I'm gonna let you know that's so out of touch and that's so like, what am I listening to? And are you really trying to make me feel sympathetic to someone who is completely catered to? Like, so I get that argument. But if you stick with the book, I think that it comes full circle at the end, in which, you know, he is for the first time in his entire life at this moment having to try to figure out how to make a living. And his skill, honestly, is military skill and volunteer work. So that's a very difficult skill set, especially, and then, it's not like he can really kind of go back into the military at this point in his life for a number of reasons. And honestly, I don't think that he wants to go back into the military. However, I do think that he delighted from his service. I'm gonna put a pin on that because I think one of the saddest moments of this book is near the end where he's getting stripped of everything. And I think that this is hard for people, for Americans, absolutely, to really wrap your head around how you're beginning to divorce how he has to live his life in this notion of divorcing himself from father and grandmother and grandfather and brother are all, yes, they play those roles, but they are also all of his bosses. And I think that it makes it complicated. I mean, many of us have worked in a space where you're working with your family members. So that's not too far-fetched, but there is never a moment that you are to treat these people like brother, father, and grandmother. And when he gets to the point at the end that everything is getting stripped from him, and they're like, we're stripping you not just of your royal title, we're taking away your finances. So, like, you no longer have any money and like you're not getting a salary anymore, which I think is legit. I'm okay with not giving him a salary, but it's like getting fired with no severance package. And I'm sorry, like typically people get a severance package, but they didn't even, I mean, your dad fires you and he doesn't even tell you that he's okay taking back all the money that you have. And granted, um, we don't know how much money this is, but it's definitely not as much as we envision that he has. So this is definitely, and he brings up a solid point. Like he's never had to carry a wallet. He's never had a driver's license. He's been with, he's never shopped online. He's never, like a lot of things that are common, he's never done. He's always had bodyguards. So this is the first time in his entire life that he's had bodyguards. And I think he didn't have bodyguards. And I think that the problem that I absolutely have is there is no one who can convince me that his mother would be okay with this. The way that his mother was treated, and to think that his mother would be okay with her baby son left with his baby son with no protection, and the amount and the type of harassment that they've been receiving, people in their backyard, people in, I mean, not to say that he doesn't know how to use a gun, he absolutely does. And I could see him giving his life up physical to protect his family from harm, which any man does. And honestly, and when he makes a comment at the very, very end, when Megan's like, I'm more in love with you now than ever, I feel that in my bones because I would be more in love. I mean, there is nothing sexier than when your spouse or someone that you're dating clearly is doing is in this protective, I'm protecting your entire entity, I'm protecting you from all harm. I mean, that is just attractive. So anywho, but I thought I wanted to, when I was talking about the military, I think it was the saddest thing ever in from my view that as he's getting stripped, they stripped him of his military. And it was like, you strip him of his military service, where I I I found that to be more, and I would think that he would possibly agree that that would be more harmful for him than stripping him of his title of Duke. Like, and then when they made it absolutely clear that he could not lay a wreath in his honor, in his name sake at all, on anything in the Commonwealth of Great Britain, to honor those who have fallen. When he served in combat with these folks, I just felt like I struggled with the the lack of I don't want to say care, but it seems like it's a complete and utter lack of, humanity. Like, I mean, this is not a stranger. This is your son. Like, I struggled with that for sure. Anywho, I uh another thing about this book is that there are a plethora of chapters, but they're very short. So I think it does help with getting through the reading very quickly. And if you listen to the media, this is another reason why I brought up the media, then you would absolutely believe that the majority of this book was written about him and Megan, when that was such a small part of this book that it is really kind of troublesome that so much was focused on that. And I think it is even more fascinating how the media doesn't want to have a deeper conversation with what this book is about, is what does a child born in a royal family that also had an insanely popular mother who was harassed, until that caused her death. That was then, that level of harassment was transposed upon the child that has remained with him, that has caused tremendous trauma, that has and that has influenced and caused suicide of one of his ex-girlfriends that has never recovered from the trauma that she received from dating him because of the level of harassment that the media has caused. That also led to his current wife to have suicidal thoughts while raising two children he strives to protect. That's the story. But rather have that conversation, the media wants to talk about him and Megan. That's not the story. Megan's not the story. The story is the media. The man was tortured from boyhood to current. It is nonsensical to think that this young man had to put himself in trunks in order to protect his whereabouts and be free from the media. The only level of freedom he could have is in the middle of Botswana, living amongst the lions. That's not normal. Like I am happy that Africa became his home and nurtured him in the midst of a very turbulent time in his life up until now. Like, I think that that is fantastic. However, in order to feel free, you have to live in the plains with elephants and lions. Otherwise, you are living in complete and utter hell because the media is surrounding you in an unhealthy manner. That's extreme. And the level, the notion of having, you can't go out your backyard, people are in your backyard, which seems like trespassing. The fact that drones are flying all over your house and in your backyard, and people are cutting to get into the gate. It's too much. People are chasing you down the street. If you do watch the documentary, like, they are constantly on the lookout for and they call them paps. And I thought this was ridiculous and abnormal. Like, why, yeah, they're there, ignore him. But after listening to this, after, reading this book, I was like, okay, I get why they're on guard. It's because they are, this is trauma. Like, you need therapy from just living through this. And I find that to be very sad. Okay. With all that being said, since we're not really covering the true story, it is pretty clear his dislike with the media. And his dislike with the media is in combination is something that has that is completely evident because it has hindered a lot of things that he wanted to do in his life. He wanted to be more active in the military. He wanted to do more active duty, but the media has continued to make it their point to stop opportunities for him based on what the need to know. The public does not need to know as much as we would like to, as much as people think that we like. Yeah, it's interesting, but it may be interesting, but we don't need to know. I mean, it seems like the media thinks that we need to know everything, including like the color of his underwear. So we don't need to know it. And um, I find it very, very difficult. It is interesting how he clearly feels a level of unprotectedness from the media and this quasi relationship that the media has with the royal family. And I struggle um, with the need to consistently blame Meghan, the father, and the son, consistently blaming Meghan for what her existence. And I um I do not like the rhetoric that it is um that Prince William and Prince Harry, their conflict is because of Meghan. I think that that is a very simplistic way to look at this. It is pretty clear that there has always been a rift between William and Harry. They are not, and I don't, I think that it's hard sometimes. Um, Families are complicated, and I think that sometimes marriage and death, like major life events, marriage, death, children, are really able to demonstrate the rifts that already existed. And I think that this memoir serves as a purpose for him to kind of pause and go back and see, and evaluate where was the problem, where's the issue, right? And so, and in his reflection, it's clear that he is now noticeably, he can pinpoint where the problem may have lied, right? And so it's no longer a surprise that that where Harry and William lies. I was listening to I don't know what channel I was watching, but I was listening to them talk about, I think it was CNN, and they had a royal quote unquote expert. And honestly, these royal experts are hilarious to me because it's not like they went to school to study the royals. I mean, and I'm sure that while they were in high school or college that they had to study a history class. So I'm sure that they had to read something somewhere. But there is no extra qualification. It's literally the definition of a royal expert is somebody who is able to get information from the royal family. So they have an in and they get access to the royal family. So I think that so clearly there's a level of bias, and they do not ever say specifically who's telling them these things, right? It is supposedly a source. We don't know who the source is, but Harry throughout this book is clearly like, when you say a source, I know who the letter comes from. Like, I know these are the people who had access to this information. So I already know that it can't, when you say a source, the source is pretty there. And I think that, so I was listening to this lady talk, an expert, and talking about how close William and Harry was, and how some of this may, that there could be some level of repair. And I was just like, even more reading Harry and William's book, I don't see, they weren't as close as people would like to believe they are. And I think that just because it's the two of them, people had to assume that they were the closest pair. And no, they were not. And marriage drove them apart even more. And I think that the issue the most is Prince Harry has always been more charming than Prince William. And he, even before there was a Meghan, he was charming. So when he would kind of go on these expeditions, go around the world, people gravitated more to him. What made Prince William more popular is because he got married and had, and his wife was attractive, and they had these cute kids, and Harry was by himself, and so when Prince Harry got married, and you had a woman who was absolutely charismatic, speaks, is very informed, and very educated, very strong because she's on her own too. She's had a career. It was intimidating. And so and because her level of popularity shot up even more with it. I mean, the two of them were charismatic together. And I'm gonna let you know right now, in the Caribbean and in Africa, they love them some Prince Harry. And then he brings home a wife that is Black. It made him even more popular. And then when you have a wife, Prince William, that is that is very awkward, just like he is. I mean, the images alone, like, they just approach life differently. So there was, I, it's, I don't think that it's necessarily a rift that couldn't be repaired. It's just that they're just different men. And Prince Harry brings up a very interesting point, in which it gets to the point where Prince William and his father blames everything on Meghan, more so Prince William. And so he asked him, like, so what would you propose? I get divorced? Like, how can we resolve this in your eyes? What is your definition of resolve? And there's no legit answer. Clearly, you want her to go away. What grown man is going to not uh, stand up for his wife and children? And for those who are like who think that he should stand up for his brother before his wife and children, let me ask you, do you think that Prince William would stand up for Harry, Prince Harry, before his wife and kids? If Prince Harry acted the way that William is acting to Kate, who what would Prince William's response be? The fact that Prince William can sit and put his finger in Meghan's face as if she's a child and think that that's okay. The fact that Prince William can manhandle his brother twice and think that that's okay, because even if Prince Harry were to hit him back, which I feel is justified, we all know that he would be hitting his boss. And we all know that in the world of the royal family, he cannot do this. I think it is interesting that Harry is not willing to see the role that his grandmother played in this. He really is much more focused on the role that his dad and his dad and brother played into this. Primarily, they're the more vocal ones. Anyway, I think that the biggest change for him is having children. He wanted to have a hug. His father dealt with protocol, and in protocol, you do not hug your children. Grandmother Queen does not tolerate touch. So therefore, I can see that he wanted to be the exact opposite of his dad. So he is so much like his mother that it is completely evident that he is his mother's child. And him having children clearly is a determining factor of the decisions that he's made. You're going to protect, yes, I love my wife, but there is something special to loving your wife and then also loving the mother of your children. So I think it's kind of a really interesting thing that I know it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but she was much more financially helping with the building of this family than what she's given. Like, if she didn't have credit cards, investments, then and friends in Hollywood, I'm not sure if this would have gone as smoothly. So, I mean, we all look at Tyler Perry and the role that he played, but I think it is fascinating how people loved on Harry, and it still is because of his mom. I mean, it just is what it is. And the more that Harry gets older, the more we see much more of his mom. And I think coming to America, specifically California, was a really good move because number one, we have, laws because, you got to go back to the Britney Spears days on paparazzi. We also have, um, they have to make a living, and it's really unfortunate. Um, all of this is really unfortunate. I think it's fascinating, and just on a lighter side here, um, I chuckled at the number of times because he referred to his penis because he was he went to the North Pole and got frostbite down there, and the number of words that he uses to refer to his penis is hilarious. He calls it, of course, a penis, but he calls it a pucker, nether regions, down there, appendage. Like, I mean, these are just a few. I chuckled at how he referred to himself. As a whole, I felt that this book was well put together. It was a difficult read for me because I would say the last 15 chapters, you really understood his frustration, his inability to feel free. Like, it's clear that he was just trapped. And I, I, and I'm happy that it seems that he's really feeling free, but I just feel that stripping him, his family, of their birthright, it doesn't seem, it doesn't feel right. And I really wish that they would put what, or attempt to put what Diana would have wanted for her children first. And no, it's clear that they're not coming back, but to treat them like they're the problem when it's clear that the media is the problem. And it also is clear that the royal family has to consider what role they played in this. I don't think that what Prince Harry did was wrong. I think that what Prince Harry did by writing this book is him voicing, finally giving voice completely to his story. I think he's clearly concerned about what the history books is going to say about him, um, because it's clear that his family is trying to rewrite history. And I think that's a legit concern, which is why he clearly is taking this route. I also think that he's doing exactly what he alluded to, is that you can say things to my face and I'll say it directly in the open. I don't need to run behind a news story and act like I didn't say it. So it's clear that he finds that to be a bit of a cowardly act. I'm sure he wouldn't call his family cowards, but I'm going to make that statement. I also think that I also don't see how he would have stayed in the royal family, even if it was up to Meghan. Even clearly, it's not Meg. It wasn't Meghan's choice to leave, but I don't think that he would have been able to, even if he didn't marry Meghan. I don't think he could have sustained staying in the royal family because his life was being unfulfilled. I think that he's happy, and um, and I have a warning to say. British monarchy, the British Empire, and the British monarchy is going down is going down a downward spiral. It's going in a downward spiral. And King Charles is not liked. And and especially in America, he will never be liked because of the way that he treated Princess Diana and marrying Camilla, whatever. So this insanely and unpopular man, and I'm letting you know, Prince William, you're following in your father's footsteps. It may appear to you that people in the media may be siding more with your story because you are controlling the media and what people are saying and have access and kind of can paint the picture about Harry and Meghan. I want you to realize that um, as much as you may think this is not about race, this is about race. And you are going to put yourself in a hole. You're putting yourself in a corner because the British Empire is made up of quite a few brown folks, brown and black folks. And you pushed out a family that is um, that looks like them. And Meghan may be fair skinned. The kids may be even more fair skinned. But this is going to follow you. And I really, this is at the same time that people from the Caribbean is pushing for independence. and demanding reparations. So you need to really, and there's always a call for what do we do about the royals? That's not going to necessarily be the issue, I don't think. But what I do think is the level of respect for you is dwindling because of how you're treating Harry and his family. And when people kept saying that Prince Harry doesn't feel love, so he's going to burn down the village, and I hear all that, no, that's not what this is. This is you you are complicit with harming your child. You have made this man escape from his birthright, from his country. And then you want him, and then you want to force him to reconcile without his wife and children in tow. Like, I need for you to think about. I hope, I'm sure you won't maybe not watch my video, but I'm saying that you really, if you read this book, you do need to pause, and then I want you to really think about what you are doing, because it's almost like in my last statement is one of the reasons why, the gods, lowercase g, all of the many gods, Zeus and all of his many children, Poseidon, etc., and Hades. What made those gods, quote unquote, disappear is because people forgot about them. That's their statement, is gods disappear once people forget about them. And when you forget about them because you don't respect them, I need for you to think about this. People are going to stop respecting you. And what does that do when people lose respect for the monarchy? You can still be the part of the monarchy, but nobody will respect you. It's a hard one. Anyway, grab the book, grab the audio, and enjoy the read.